League of Ireland football.
On Off the Ball.
Brought to you by the refreshingly alcohol-free Rockshore 00. Get the facts. Be drink aware. Visit drinkaware.ie.
You are very welcome along to another LOI pod here on Off the Ball. Stephen back with you this week. And I am, as ever, joined by Vinny, Perth and G-Mac. Gareth McGlynn looking very G-Mac there. You're obviously away on your holidays and nice of you to make some time for us.
Cheers, Stevo. Yeah, away with the kids in Ibiza.
Tell you, that's something else. When are you going clubbing?
San Antonio. It's only a boat right away. I'm trying to negotiate it with the wife
down
as we speak.
Down to Pasha or something like that, will you?
I reckon if I get an hour in there, I'll be doing well.
Great stuff. Well, plenty to talk about this week, as ever. And this weekend, Friday night, I should say, our live and exclusive national radio commentary will be coming to you from Sullivan and Lamb Park. We are covering Drogheda United versus Waterford. So I'll be alongside the former Shamrock Rovers goalkeeper Barry Murphy for that game. And do remember that our LOI pod is brought to you by Rockshore 00. And don't forget to be drinkaware and check out drinkaware.ie. Gareth, just to go back maybe, well listen, let's have a look at the games at the weekend and look with a view to the games that are happening this weekend. Shamrock Rovers, of course, beating Derry City at Tallaght Stadium, a big victory for them. And is it the end of what we might have felt could have been a title race?
Yeah, I think that the latter there of what could have been. I think the whole league were looking for Derry to get a result in the game. But to be honest with you, the first half was quite competitive, but after that, it was all Rovers. Even as difficult it is for me to say that, they were very impressive, in control most of the game. A couple of Derry's players looked okay. I mean, I've seen Fleming now a couple of times since his debut against Bohs. I think he looks like a hell of a good player and he's going to be a good addition to the squad. Stevo up front is going to, once he gets his fitness and he can play 90 minutes, he's going to be sharp. But I mean, you look at the players that Rovers had on the pitch in reserve, maybe resting for European games. I mean, it's just, I've always said it, and I think it only really came to light whenever Shells won the league last year. It says everyone else, they're not playing for second place. They are playing for a time whenever Shamrock Rovers, that four-legged stool, whenever something goes wrong. So you've got the owners, the manager, the fans and the players. If they're all singing in harmony and communicating well and going well, which when Rovers are, then nobody will touch them. That's just the way it is. But you've got, as a club, if you're looking to win the league, if you're looking to go close to challenging Europe, you just need to be ready for whenever one of those four legs of the stool aren't in place and it will start to wobble. And that's what Shells did last year. And I think that's what we've seen with Derry last. And I think we've got to be a wee bit more understanding of where Derry are trying to do. It's the first year of Tiernan Lynch. You've got to give them this chance. There's so many players coming and going. Some of them look good, some of them haven't worked out. But I think you saw the quality of Shamrock Rovers last week. They were highly convincing.
Yeah, but is that Gareth? That's the big question for me. And I only see Derry intermittently in Dublin, and I've travelled to watch them a couple of times. Right, obviously everything's online, but it doesn't feel like. And I get your point about it's Tiernan Lynch. It's early, but a lot of the ins and outs is certainly not going to get you any closer to Shamrock Rovers. It feels like they've done too much of that, and you have to question, who's signing these players, why they're signing them. Too many have come in and out, and they haven't have a settled squad. They haven't have a settled way of playing. They haven't, and you just feel like the team, if they had 12, 13 players that they started the season with and stuck with them as their core and bring people in and out, they'd be a lot further down the road than they are now. And how long can that go on? I'm not talking about turning in terms of under pressure, but how long can they keep trying things and throwing darts? Like, it feels like they haven't got anywhere this year in terms of developing a proper team.
Well, and I agree with you, Vinny, because see, whenever there was a settled team, it was that 3-5, the box midfield. They were going on a great run. Granted, they ran into a couple of difficult fixtures, but there isn't a settled team. And I think that Tiernan had a settled team up until all these players came in and a few players left. And I think it's a case, and you would know better than me, Vinny, is see when you go in there and still thinks it's Rory Higgins' team, and he's got to change these people out. Instead of looking at them, assessing them, and saying, you know what, they may have been Rory Higgins players, but they're very good players, and I can work with them, and I can mould them into the team that I want. I agree with you. I think there's too much ins and outs, and it needs to stop. But if you historically look through his 7 years at Larne, he always rotated players every year. And to me, that means two things. He's indecisive, and another thing, it costs the club huge amounts of money. You know how difficult it is to get rid of players, especially if they've got contracts left. You can't do that. It means they're not spending enough time doing the proper recruitment, doing their due diligence, and they're just using agents to get players in the door. And you're seeing a lot of that now. And if it continues, I don't see it. I don't see them getting as close as they need to Shamrock Rovers. I don't see them competing, to be honest. And I know they're sitting good at the minute, and they're sitting second, and they've had some good results, and I give them that. But he's got to start working with the players that he's got and stop changing them in and out.
Is Europe under threat for Derry City at this moment, Gareth? Do you think, are they guaranteed to finish top three this season? Will they win the cup? Are they going to be in Europe next season?
Just from what I've seen of them all year, I think they're solid enough, Stevo. They've got a solid enough system. They've got a good way of playing. They don't concede many. They had that game against Waterford, which to me was just the perfect storm for Waterford and Derry. I don't see that happening again. I always thought they would struggle to score the goals. Stevo looks a real good addition. The left wing back, Bannon, looks good as well. The other guy played the other day, he looks as if he needs a few games to get up to speed. I think they've got a good enough squad. And you heard me talking, Stevo, about the competition. I think that's what drives Shamrock Rovers. And I think that's what Shelbourne are getting very close to when you consider all the competition and the recruitment that they're doing. I think the competition internally within Derry, the competition internally within Shelbourne, will see them fill the top three.
And the thing is, Vinny, and you know yourself from experience with Dundalk, and that squad, say, that Stephen Kenny would have had when you were assistant there, it was all built on stability. And the reason Shamrock Rovers have been successful over the last number of years is that stability. There's always that core of players at Shamrock Rovers that's been successful, that's won titles. And this thing, if it does become a case of Derry City become a club similar to Larne, as Gareth is suggesting there, that they're going to be changing the staff, the playing staff every year or every half year, as we've seen this year, that doesn't really sound like a recipe for success to me.
No, it's anything but, and that's why I asked the question of Gareth in terms of what people were thinking, because, I mean, I've seen them try 2 and 3 different shapes in the middle of games, and you're right to touch on Shamrock Rovers. It's a great example because, yes, they've got a colossal squad now, but they didn't always have that. They had to adapt their squad around Europe. You see, like Graham Burke, Jack Bourne at times, not feature in Europe because Stephen needed a different way of playing. But domestically in their league, to become dominant, you almost knew the Rovers team. They might change the centre forward at different stages. They might, whether it was Gaffney, whether it was Green, whether it was somebody else coming in and out. But by and large, you knew exactly Johnny Kenny. You knew exactly who was playing in the back three. You knew the goalkeeper. You knew the 2 wing backs. For years, it was Ronan Finn. He may come out at different stages, but you knew exactly what you were getting with this Derry team and the squad. Like, I mean, you almost wonder, is it like, I don't know, a game Monopoly, like just, as I said, I used the example of throwing darts and eventually hit something, but they have to find a way of playing, and players like that consistency of a way of playing, and I think they need to get back to that and get back to that very quickly, because as much as on paper they're doing quite well, I mean, I got back to the start of the season, my prediction was sort of Rovers followed by Shelbourne followed by Pats. And when it comes to that European chase, I still think there's a fair chance that could happen now. I need a big run for Pats and Shells, but both of them are getting huge momentum, I feel, out of Europe. And it is that old thing of, how teams survive with European games. It just raises standards in your squad. So I think both of them are on the way to push for those European spots. And it feels like Drogheda and Derry are vulnerable. They have a lead and they've got to do their business right, but they have a lead and they have to hold on to it. So obviously Bohs will have a big say in the European spots, but the two that look most vulnerable to me in European spots is probably Drogheda and Derry.
You'd say Drogheda, would you? Because like I'm kind of thinking, and I suppose like, we'll stick with this European discussion or qualification discussion. We might have lost Gareth there just for a moment. We'll try and get him back up on the line. But Vinny, I have to say, from being at the game last Friday night, we covered it on Off the Ball, Bohemians at home to Drogheda United. You were there as well, obviously, for Virgin Media. I just kind of felt that it was almost like, well, I suppose they're motivated slightly by the hurt of missing out on Europe this year when they had qualified for it. But he's got a fully fit squad now, really, doesn't he? Kevin Doherty, the Drogheda United boss. And like to have like the two forwards, Alua and Kareem, playing so well in that first half and giving Bohemians a lot of headaches, and then to spring Moran Davis and Josh Thomas off the bench. Like you're thinking, if he has those four centre forward options for the rest of the season, and they defend as well as they have done right across the season, led, I think, brilliantly, and you might have to say a nominee for the Player of the Year award at the end of the season, Conor Keeley. This Drogheda United team looks like they're kind of back in the ascendancy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm making the same mistake that I think we've all made, expecting Drogheda to fall off. Just because, there's no reason for that. It's just, you think of the sort of standard of player in the likes of Shelbourne dressing room and Pat's dressing room, and you feel like if they get momentum out of Europe, that they can go on 6, 7, 8 game winning streaks. But both of them, Bohs on paper, look, paper means nothing. Drogheda were out with them on Friday night and have done all season. So it feels like them teams are stronger. But to be honest with you, I got myself apparently, thank God I'm not as social media, I got myself into a little bit of trouble on Friday in terms of my commentary around Drogheda. But genuinely, I think I probably speak for everyone, I want Drogheda back in Europe. I'd love to see them getting in Europe on the pitch. I think everybody that's anything about you in League of Ireland wants them to do that. I think the job Kevin has done is remarkable, and what he's used is he does what all good managers do. You turn the negative into a positive, whether that's negative commentaries like a clown like me, or whether it's the negativity around losing out in Europe, and he's turned that stuff into a positive. So they're in the driving seat. The teams with the points on the board are well ahead. As I said, I think Shells and Pats could come with a late run for Europe, but the teams with the points on the board are in the ascendancy. And you're right to point out Drogheda's squad. It is very good, but there's a couple of key positions in that, whether it's a centre half, that's really important, whether it's in midfield, that they probably don't have the same scope as everybody else over the next couple of months.
You mean in terms of backup for certain positions, or
backup for certain positions?
Like the first team look like that's one of the best. It is one of the best first teams in the league, because you look at you've got the two wing backs in Kane and Lamb, then at the centre halves Quinn, Keeley and Bulger, and then up ahead of them, like Ryan Brennan is just like the man just never seems to be given up. I think Luke Heaney is one of the most underrated midfielders in the league. His work rate is unbelievable. And then you've got Shane Farrell actually coming off the bench for him the other night as well. We know what he can do. Yeah. And then you've got like Darren Markey, one of the best playmakers in the league. And as I mentioned already, the four centre forwards. Like, it's just I really think this Drogheda United team could get top three, Gareth, and the thing is, they might need to get top three because they got an away trip to Derry City in the Cup in the next round, and that's going to be very tricky for them.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I mean, obviously the two teams, you can't separate them in the league, so that's going to be a 50-50, probably home advantage in the Cup. But I echo Vinny, I want to see Drogheda qualifying through the league in Europe. And I think if they qualify through the league in Europe, it will be a bigger achievement than last year winning the Cup, which sounds amazing, but it will be. But you look at the depths, and we talk about the competition, internal competition, and the depth of squad. Drogheda's squad depth has got better. I think a lot of the team's depths have got better. But you look at John O'Sullivan, Josh Thomas being back as well is a massive boost for this weekend. I think he is a real good player. We saw the goal. And one player that when I just comment on, because there's no doubt about it, Keeley's been exceptional. He scored 2 goals up in the Brandon Bell. Any time I've seen him, he's just a real leader. And it's funny because I think Pats are missing that. that person, and they had him. I think if he had been up alongside Redmond, it's a serious centre-half partnership. But for whatever reason, he went back to Drogheda. But Andrew Quinn beside him has been exceptional when I've watched him. And he's one of those players that goes unnoticed. And he's one of those players that if you asked another player within the Drogheda team, who's the player that you want to see in the team sheet every week, it's going to be him. And it'd be interesting to ask Conor Keeley the same thing. So with him, Bulger, Quinn and Keeley, I think you've got a great foundation. And we've all talked about Denison as well, and that's how good he has been so far this year. But I would love to see more from Josh Thomas and Warren Davis now coming into the real business side of the season. I think them two in particular could get the goals, because I never doubt Drogheda's defensive unit stability with Brennan in front of the back three. I always think that they're not going to concede many goals, but going forward, I think that they could struggle. So Thomas and Warren Davis will have a big say whether they qualify for Europe in the league.
Well, just real quickly on Keeley, I think it's important to say, I'd say Joe Redmond's average position on the pitch is about somewhere around 10 yards higher than what Keeley plays for Drogheda. So that's the important difference. To be fair to Stephen Kenny, I mean, it's one thing, and look, he showed the quality in his pass for the goal. It's one of the best passes you'll see all season. And Thomas's second touch actually is exceptional.
The pass is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable.
The pass is off the charts. But when you play for Pats, you probably as centre half, you probably got to make more passes than Chris Forrester at times or Jamie Lennon in terms of starting attacks. So they obviously felt he couldn't do that on a regular basis. And I know that's a bad example because of the pass he made through the day and dictating the game, but also because you're 10 yards higher and because you're probably playing on the front foot and Pats obviously play completely different football than Drogheda, then you're vulnerable in behind. So you think of the sign of Sean Hoare from Stephen. That's about Sean, as I always tell people, on GPS is as quick as anybody in the league. He was as quick as Sean Gannon in his peak. So that's where the manager probably looked and went, can't have Keeley, probably doesn't suit the team, to be fair to Stephen Kenny. So they're slightly different, but there's no doubt that squad. Thomas looks a hell of a player. If you can keep him fit, I mean, what I like about him is he's not shy. He came on and he left a little bit on all the Bohs centre halves, and he left a sort of mark on them. And as I said, the finish is wonderful. So it's set up for them to qualify. I fear for them, but I think, I'll say it one more time, I think we all hope they do end up in Europe. I think it'd be a great story, and as players, they all deserve it.
And I'm just thinking as well, Vinny, like Drogheda United have a really tough fixture list coming up, and I suppose turn to Gareth for this one. They play away against obviously got our game on Friday night up at Sullivan Lamb Park, Drogheda United home to Waterford. Then it's away to Derry City in the Cup. Then the few fixtures after that, they're home to St Patrick's Athletic, away to Shamrock Rovers, home to Shelbourne, away to Sligo Rovers, and then home to Derry City. Now, there's a couple of those teams in there I think Josh Thomas could give a lot of trouble to, because, like, as Vinny mentioned there, like, Pats like playing a bit of a high line. They like having their defenders further up the pitch. Josh Thomas really could make hay against the likes of a Shamrock Rovers or a St Pat's or whatever the case may be. So, like, despite the fact that they do look like tough fixtures, maybe they do have the players in the team now that can take really important points from those games.
Yeah, and we talk about styles all the time. I mean, Drogheda and Doherty is not kind of try to hide the way he plays. He plays the same way with the players that he's got. And any time I've watched them live, whether it's been against the top teams or the bottom teams, and especially the top teams, especially when they've gone two up front, they have caused all sorts of problems in the meantime. So they've played that very narrow 5 at the back, 2 or 3, 1, and then 2 up front as well. It is a nightmare for a centre half. Centre halves aren't used to playing 2 up front or playing against 2. So if Derry continue, let's use Derry example, playing the 3 at the back, and we know the 3 at the back aren't the quickest, then they're going to cause Derry massive problems. And the same for Shamrock Rovers, Pats and Shelbourne, whoever they play. So I see them picking up points. I mean, I actually prefer Drogheda going away to these teams and would have more confidence in them getting the result than maybe this weekend's game against Waterford, because I think Waterford can cause some problems because of the freedom and the style that they play with. They're way more open, they're way more aggressive, they're way more fluid in the transitions. Drogheda can actually caused massive problems with the two players up front and Markey in behind. So, I mean, those are the games that they want to play. As a player, as a manager, you want to test yourself against the best. And we know Kevin Doherty has got this narrative now that's saying, listen, everybody doubted us, everybody keeps doubting us, and everybody thinks that we can't get Europe through the league. So let's go and do it.
And Vinny, you would have to fancy them at home this weekend against Waterford. Like Waterford, I still don't know what to make of them yet, because they got some really talented attacking players. They got a couple of good central midfielders. Maybe it's at the back where they're being let down. And you just feel, you know, player for player, looking at the two team sheets at the start of this game on Friday night, whichever or whomever might be playing, you would still probably fancy Drogheda United to win the game.
Yeah, I do. And I think Drogheda's biggest challenge is when you're expecting them to win. A little bit like Sligo at times, because then it's like you've got to be on the front foot, you've got to make things happen. Your goalkeeper, when you're expected to win, and it's important, can't go down injured a couple of times, you know, or a couple of players can't go down with the odd injury here and there. You've got to make it happen, and you've got to dictate the pace of the game at home. I expect both of their wing backs, like, would Shamrock Rovers sign either of the wing backs? Probably not, but that doesn't mean they're not two of the best wing backs in the league. They're right up there. The way they play, the energy they have, everything about them, both of them wing backs is important in the likes of these games in Drogheda, and obviously take the chances. So, against Waterford this week, it wouldn't shock me if they drop points. It wouldn't shock me over the next few weeks if they drop points. They've got a difficult run. I keep saying, we all hope we're wrong. Kevin Doherty's done an unbelievable job there, and we're better off. I think we're better off slagging off Drogheda for between now and the end of the season, and they just go and beat teams to split us and qualify for Europe. That's all. Reverse psychology.
I think Kevin Doherty would be happy for you to slag Drogheda off the whole way through the season as well. Yeah. And he's 100% right. But I really do fear for them against the likes of Waterford, just with the freedom they played and the expectation. And as Vinny said as well, Conor Keeley, they all have to come up the pitch an extra 5-10 yards, because the onus is supposed to be on them because they're at home, and they're supposed to bring it to them because of the league standings. Whereas, obviously, the cup game, but then they're home to Pats the week after, they will happily sit 10 yards deeper and hit them on the attack with the two up front and maybe the one Murky behind. I think they're way more comfortable playing against that style than against Waterford.
And are we expecting Waterford to play with a back three with the wing backs almost, I suppose? Will we see the two sides mirroring each other? Vinny, does that make it any different for Drogheda United? Will it be a tougher challenge?
It will be. So if you've got to remember, the difference is this is a game Drogheda, anything but a win is a disappointment for them. So, for example, at times Waterford will go into a back five, and you've got to break them down. And somebody steps out and takes a chance, or a sitting midfielder like Ryan Brennan all of a sudden takes a run forward, and all of a sudden then they're counter-attacked. And that's what they're vulnerable to when they play sides like that, like Waterford, where they're expected to win. And I wouldn't expect the crowd up there to get on a back or anything, but it's almost like when you're chasing Europe, it's like trying to chase a league title down. You take risks when you're chasing, but if you're 3, 4, 5 points clear, it's so much easier. You'll wait till the 60th minute, 70th minute, 18th minute to get that goal. So what Drogheda have to do is, and they've done it all season, to be fair to them, is stay disciplined. If it takes 80, 85 minutes to get that goal, wait for it. But Waterford will make it difficult for them. The problem with Waterford is, and you think of this game, and it's the story of League of Ireland for the last 2 years, is I wouldn't be shocked if at 10 o'clock we're listening to the late debate, lads chatting, and Waterford have won 2-0. But I also wouldn't be shocked if Drogheda have won 2-0. Genuinely wouldn't. I think there's quality in both teams for that result to happen. So it's sort of difficult to predict, other than to say Waterford are favourites or Drogheda are favourites.
I feel that Waterford are not great with set pieces. It's something we know Drogheda United are strong on. Is it possible to tell your team to go out there and, lads, we need to try and win corners in this game, get the ball wide, try and get deflections out for corner kicks? Is that something you can actually go out there with intent to do, Gareth, or is that a bit mad?
No, absolutely. It's 100% right. If you think about Galway, and people slag Galway for not playing enough football, you watch Galway, how they are able to manipulate the ball. But three centre midfielders who are good ball players are able to get the ball to the people to be able to deliver crosses into the box at the right time of the pitch, in the right space in the pitch. I mean, if you're talking about that, if you look at Waterford, Boyle, Leahy and Burke, that's the three at the back. They're not the tallest. They're not dominating. You're trying to tell me that Conor Keeley won't be preying on that, whether it be a free kick wide, whether it be a long throw in, or will it be corner set piece. So Drogheda will 100% will look at Waterford's weaknesses and say, right, and the same way Waterford will look at Drogheda's weaknesses, maybe on the counter attack or in the transitions. So Kevin Doherty will be spending a lot of time on set pieces, getting second balls. They're amazing at getting the second. What do they call it? The second phase of the corners. Yeah, the second phase of the corners. We seen it. Was it against Rovers about 2 or 3 weeks ago? They were very dangerous. They caused Rovers a lot of problems. And it doesn't matter whether you're top of the league or bottom of the league. That causes everybody problems. Yeah, and I expect the same.
One thing on that, Stevo, sorry, Gareth touched on it, is what they're very clever at doing is they send the three centre halves up for every free kick. Unless it's really deep in their own box. But at least one of them, if not two, will stay up for the next phase.
Yeah.
Where if you think about the natural reaction centre half is it might get headed clear into a wide area. Even though your team might pick up the ball, sometimes your centre half will jog back for like thinking from a sort of safety point of view, get your ass back. But they leave two or three of them up, and they're very, very clever at that, and then they're still alive in it. And the other side of that is then teams defending that gets disjointed because your centre forward might be marking one of the centre halves, and ball gets headed clear, and all of a sudden he switches off and he starts to go forward, and you're just a little bit disjointed. And you know, we say stay with your marker until the ball is cleared, and it doesn't always work that way. So that's where they get a lot of those goals they get. Even go back to the game we done, Stevo, when they scored against Bohs. Remember in United Park? It's a centre half bell. It was actually the third phase of that attack. The centre half, Keely's dead in the box, and he gets fouled because there's a little bit of sixes and sevens, and the centre half's going, I'm meant to be marking the striker, but I have to mark this centre half. Makes a rash decision, penalty, and they win the game. So very clever at that stuff. I mean, I'm reluctant to say very clever winning free kicks as well, but when they do get them, they certainly punish it.
And Steve, funny, the second goal in the Brandy, which was the real crucial goal with Keeley, that was the third phase as well. He stayed in the box. It wasn't a header, it was a volley. Came in and he just half volleyed it beautifully into the corner. And the good thing about that as well, Keeley and Bulger and Quinn at the back in the transitions when they're sitting at the halfway line, that's not where you want them. You prefer Lamb, Keeney and Keanu Kane, who are quick and quite aggressive in the tackle. So that having them back and as the last man is also quite beneficial for Drogheda, so you're not getting hit in the transition.
Well, that's the chat around the match we have on Friday night. Now, if Drogheda United were to win it and Bohemians were to drop points, because Bohs are on 42 in second place and they're just a point clear of Drogheda United. So if Bohs were even just to draw their game against Shelbourne or to lose their game against Shelbourne on Saturday night, they could be leapfrogged by Drogheda United in the table. And it's, I suppose you take out that cup match, Vinny, over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches, Bohemians have won just one game in the league. And it's just, maybe that momentum is starting to die off a little bit. And you just wonder. We saw last week, Shelbourne, they had no issues. They had a long trip from Baku and still managed to go out and beat Sligo Rovers on the Saturday night. I spoke to Richie Towell during our commentary last Friday night about the whole, dealing with matches after Europe, and he was explaining how tough it is because it really ruins your whole rhythm regards to, I suppose, recovery after your match, training session and in between your last game, your next game. It's all over the place. So the fact that Shelbourne went out, got that brilliant result away to an informed Sligo Rovers team, just goes to show you that they won't be fearing this Bohemians challenge on Saturday night at Tolka Park. No, and I think I touched on earlier on, I think playing in Europe puts your players on a different level. Europe to League One players is the Holy Grail. And it makes you feel better. It is difficult, like particularly when you go away on a Thursday night, your charter plane most likely leaves
somewhere around 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. You're probably getting into your own bed 5 o'clock early on Friday morning. You're not training on Friday.
Well, let's say so. Let's say actually even put it in the context of this week's match. Yeah. So we're speaking here. We won't go into the European game tonight too much because it's going to be over by the time people listen to this. But we're recording here on Wednesday afternoon. So Shells are away to Rijeka over in Croatia. As you say, that charter flight's going to leave at about 1 a.m, maybe, and they will be back in Dublin on Thursday morning, perhaps maybe around 5 o'clock. So from there, on a Thursday, they've got a match on Saturday at 5 o'clock against Bohemians.
So they'll do one or two things. If they take the Jurgen Klopp route, they'll train at 5 o'clock on Friday. The problem is, like, in around Dublin, that might be difficult for them to get to the training base out in the AUL. But he won't train till Friday. He may come in and do some sort of split recovery where a certain amount of players might get a bit of physio treatment. But they will do a 40-minute session, which is more or less walking through phases of play and so they'll have to do a certain amount of warm-up just to get the crap out of their body. But they will get into bed somewhere around 4 or 5 o'clock. They will not wake up, most players, before 12 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. They'll be tired all day, and even when you'll get some players might fall asleep on the plane, but by and large, it'll be a bit of crack on the plane. Hopefully, the result is good for them, and it's just you just can't sleep after matches, so they're going to lose effectively a half a night's sleep between the match tonight and playing on Saturday. It is just a matter of doing a video session on Friday, very, very light walkthrough. Anyone's got a bit of stiffness, try and get it out of their legs, but it'd be nothing more than that. It'd be nothing more than a 50-minute session in terms of on the pitch on Friday. The optimum time for that is around 5 o'clock on Friday. If you can do that. They may feel training at 11 and getting the players home early and just do nothing until they meet at 3 o'clock on Saturday. But that aside, you're talking about small difference of opinion. And but the flip side of that is, imagine getting a positive result in Europe and they just bounce into that Bohs game. And we've seen it. This rhetoric that pundits use, agents like me use, oh, they're in Europe, they need this, they need that. Europe has far, the benefits of playing in Europe far outweighs the odd negativity that comes with it in terms of a couple of games every 3 or 4 days. The players will be buzzing. They're playing a great stadium. They're travelling together. They're sharing rooms. They're sharing meals together, breakfast, lunch, dinner. The sort of team momentum is building as they go along, and they will have, as much as the manager won't want to, they'll have one eye on. Shelbourne are probably the favourites of all the Irish teams to qualify for the Conference League group stages. What an opportunity for them players. So you better play well when it comes. And if you know what, if you don't start tonight and you get an opportunity on Saturday, you take it. And that's the difference. And so that's why I feel Europe is a bonus 99.9% of the time as opposed to a negative.
Yeah, to be fair, Gareth, we got an indication of the Shells team that might play against Tiger Rovers, and we saw the team that started in Azerbaijan. So Joey O'Brien, clearly, it wasn't exactly what you would call, I suppose, rotation as such. He did kind of, I suppose, maybe leave a lot of players on the bench or gave them limited game time that he felt might be starting last Saturday against Tiger Rovers. Yeah,
absolutely. And to be honest with you, Steve, I think it backfired, because I thought they were very average against Sligo until Ali Coot came up with that wonder strike. I mean, it was a piece of absolute genius. When he dropped the shoulder, he went past Kieran Harrigan. He sold Patrick McGlynn a dummy and then just banged it into the corner. But let me tell you something now. I think they got out of jail. I think they were very, very lucky. The two big decisions made by the referee were completely wrong. Temple's foul on Fitzgerald was a penalty, no question. You had the impact of Patrick McGlynn missing an absolute sitter from 3 yards, and a player that's done unbelievable since he came back to the league and scored 2 goals. What did I say, McGlynn? Paddy McLean. So he must have sat there then. And then, of course, Ali Cook comes up with that absolute wonder strike. And then, of course, the keeper gets sent off for touching the ball, which we all saw. And I actually jumped to the defence of the referee on that because it was the distance that he was away from the ball. He made an educated decision, which was wrong in my eyes.
And that appeal was actually, that appeal was upheld as well. Gareth, you probably, on your holidays, you're not getting all the news straight away, but that's been upheld. So that just goes to back up what you've been saying there.
Brilliant. Glad to hear it. And I'm glad to hear that because of the referees, because usually they back each other, but that shows that the referees, and we're all human and they're human as well. So I just didn't think Shelbourne played as well as they could. And looking at the team, it was an incredibly strong team. In Bang, Temple, Barrett, Ledwidge, Norris, Wood, Lunny, McElroy, Adebeku and Cote. That's as strong as it gets for Shells. But they didn't perform as well. Put it this way, if they perform like that against Bohs, I expect them to get turned over. They need to up their performances.
Would you agree with that, Vinny?
They still got the job done. I mean, if Michael Duffy hadn't hit the post against Rovers, they might have went on and won it. They didn't. Shamrock Rovers won the game. I think Shells, Gareth makes a good point. Shells got a little bit lucky with a couple of referees called, but Coote ultimately did use his bit of magic. They ultimately got the second goal, and in the end, it was comfortable enough, and I accept the referee made a dog's dinner of a couple of calls. But I like what Shells are doing at the moment. I like the changes they're able to make. I like the way they're building that squad. And that's a huge game, them against Bohs, because Bohs have lost all the momentum, as you said, Stevo. And I don't know where they are with James Taylor in terms of he's obviously missed.
Well, let's believe that he will be okay for this weekend, Vinny, because apparently he was ill the week before, and then last week then he had a little bit of a niggle in his hamstring apparently, and that's apparently okay. So we're told he's going to be all right for this weekend.
Well, I'm going to say something controversial, and you probably know what I'm going to say. I'd still like their better team with Clark and McDonald in it at the moment.
Well, it's funny.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
The thing I can't understand is, right, now listen, Colin Whelan, and I've noticed a fair bit of abuse being dished out for Colin Whelan. I thought Colin Whelan played really well against Drogheda United, but he didn't play really well as, in the position that he's meant to be, which is a central striker. He did most of his good work outside the box, and he's got some really good touches, nice bit of vision, nice bit of passing, but he's not doing what he's meant to do, which is put the ball into the back of the net. And I'm just wondering, is he kind of caught between two stools here, where he obviously wants to try and score goals, but he's obviously trying to follow the manager's instructions here as well, Vinny? And you also then have to wonder, did Alan Reynolds make a mistake in starting him and not starting with James Clark as the so-called false nine?
Other than the cup game, the last time I remember Colin Whelan starting was up in Drogheda, if I'm not mistaken, and the game they lost 1-0. It was very similar in many ways. Probably that night Bohs really unlucky, had a few more chances. It's a difficult answer because we don't know tactically exactly what Alan is looking for in the staff there, but it felt like almost we were going to be dominant against Drogheda. We'll have loads of the ball, so we put an extra striker in there, or else, like the Adam McDonald, the reason I bring him up, that midfielder, him and Dawson Devoy, and Ross Tierney, that's really worked for them, particularly with Clark as that false nine, and so I just feel they've come off that a little bit. If it was me, I'd probably want to go back to that. But that gives you a huge headache because you've just signed Taylor, who's an exceptional striker. I get that. But I think they played all their best football with that sort of Clark as the main centre forward. And you just got to be careful because it's been, as you pointed out, a number of weeks without a win. I don't think Alan's under any pressure, nor should he be. But what you don't want to do is give those teams behind you a bit of momentum heading into Europe. Bohs in a good position, but they need a win quickly. And no better time to knock your sort of who's going to challenge you for Europe and Shells them back by 3 points. So it's a huge game, and they've got to get it right tactically this week in terms of the way they set up, because they've had lots of the ball, lots of nice on the eye stuff, but they haven't really penetrated him behind enough. And when you mentioned Richie Tell, you think, and he was a freak. He scored 20 plus goals from that same midfield position that Bohs have someone like Ross Tierney, and I'm not saying Ross needs to get them levels, but they do need to get a couple of players up to that level to add goals to them, because it's been a little bit even last Friday night. It was in front of Drogheda, wasn't it, for large periods, and that's what made it comfortable for them. Yeah,
and I do see what you're saying as well, and I just feel McDonald, I think, was the big one there, because he's been playing so well. And when you've only got like 11, 12 games of the season to go, just for anybody who's watching us on screen, we've lost Gareth just for the moment, so we'll try and get him back up again.
Obviously, to get more sun cream on.
Oh yeah, I'd say so. And obviously the broadband not as great over in Spain as it is here, but we do have Gareth back. Gareth, I was just saying to Vinny, Adam McDonald, I think was the key one there, really, having him taken out of the team. Connor Parsons coming back in. Like Connor Parsons coming back from an injury, maybe he's not fully match fit. He didn't seem to offer a huge amount, but I suppose that interplay between McDonald, Devoy, Clark over on that left-hand side, that might actually work with Douglas James Taylor playing as a centre forward. But like, to be rotating players like that, taking McDonald out when he's in such good form, when you're only playing week to week, you're not playing midweek games, and you're in the final third of the season, it does seem to be maybe a player like McDonald needs to stay in the starting team.
100%. I think the big thing for me is Parsons. Playing Parsons left wing back, it's a big ask. He's one of these really attractive players that beat the he's looking around.
We might, sorry, Gareth, we're struggling to hear you there for not too sure what the issue there is.
I think, Stevo, the Parsons is a really good point. Sorry, while you're reconnecting, Gareth there. Playing on the wrong side, and he was trying to cut back inside all the time. That caused a huge problem for them, because the angle of his crosses coming in, Drogheda were able to sort of meet the ball, as opposed to the ball being sort of whipped in with a left foot and in behind them, was sort of in front of them in the centre half. There was food and drink to them, and they played two wingers. They played on the night, both played on the wrong side, if that makes sense. So they've got some challenges there. They've got a lot of good players in the same sort of positions, so they've got to come up with solutions, Bohs, and it's not easy. It's not easy sometimes when you've got too many good players. I think Parsons is a really good player at times.
Yeah.
But when you've got too many of the very same players, it's hard to come up with the best solution.
And sorry, Steve, just on that, my bag again. I think Parsons needs a bit of freedom. I think he's like playing him at wing back is a big ask for his defensive responsibilities. I think you need to be playing him either as an out-and-out winger or as a false 10, like they do in the box now. But then you've got James Clark, you've got Tierney. I prefer to see Douglas Taylor in there and James Clark coming from deeper. I think it's more of a goal threat. I love, and we talked about it many times on this podcast, the fact that James Clark will run in behind the front man and give Douglas James some freedom and some space as well. And you need that from the wings as well. So that's where you need Parsons running in behind. Too many times there's people that wingers at Bohs or midfielders that are happy to play in front of the likes of Drogheda or teams that are more defensive. You've got to get in behind teams.
Yeah, Clark will play narrow off the right. If I was predicting the Bohs team this week, Clark narrow off the right, Taylor up front, and Rooney in the left wing position. You know what I mean? That would be the front three, and that's really exciting. The reason why I talk about Clark as that sort of false nine is the results he had were phenomenal. But I imagine that would be the front three with the void behind them. And maybe an Adam McDonald back into the team. You'd imagine that's probably what they look at.
Yeah. Well, listen, that's going to be one of the best games, I think, across the weekend. Shells at home to Bohemians on Saturday night. As I mentioned, we'll do Drogheda Waterford on Friday. Also on that night, Derry City against Cork City. Just quickly, Gareth, we're coming up to the end of our time here. Cork City away to Derry City at the Brandywell. I know they got a bit of a boost last week, beating Galway United, but like if Derry City don't win this game, you might as well throw your hat at Europe, I think.
Yeah, no, it's one of those ones you look at and you say you've got to be winning that. And again, like Drogheda, once the onus is on Derry City to come out a bit and be a bit more expansive, that leaves you open at the back as well. So I agree with you. I think they've got to be beating Cork. I know Cork got a boost last week, and you saw the enthusiasm with the manager and the crowd and his interviews afterwards. It will stimulate and give them a bit of catalyst to go on and maybe give it a rattle. But it's a free shot for Cork City going up to Derry City. So they can go up and play with freedom. And you know when you play against a team that's got a load of freedom and basically has a free shot, they can be quite dangerous. But I expect Derry City to do the business and get all 3 points.
Yeah, Cork City after that play Waterford in the Cup. They might fancy that one down at Turner's Cross, a Munster derby. Then they're away to Bohemians, home to Waterford, away to Pats, home to Rovers. So they're running out of time to try and pick up those valuable points. Speaking of clubs in trouble at the moment, the other 2 games on Sunday, we've got St Patrick's Athletic home to Sligo Rovers. That promises to be a really entertaining game as well at Inchicore. Sligo Rovers playing that kind of football. They're playing on a beautiful pitch as we have at Richmond Park. And also on that day, Galway United at home to Shamrock Rovers. We might wrap up on this one, Vinny. What do you say about Galway United? They just cannot seem to pick up any kind of momentum. Yeah. It seems they're going nowhere but down.
Yeah, it feels like they're under a bit of pressure and they just can't seem to pick up a win. The one thing you'll say is if Galway were to end up in the playoff position, I think they'd be fine.
Yeah.
That's the security blanket they have. I think John Caulfield is so experienced that obviously we know that Ollie Horgan is not on the bench at the moment, and I think that's a blow to John. But John's experienced enough to deal with that, and he'll obviously have to deal with that in the right manner when the time comes. So you feel for everyone in Galway because what they've done is, and when Galway is flying, it's a great ground to go to. I think we'd all like to see Galway pick up a win or two over the next couple of weeks. I think League of Ireland needs Galway, needs John Caulfield in the league, and needs them back to where, at least a mid-table team. So I think they'd be fine this year. They've just run out of ideas a little bit. I said at the time, do you remember when we were talking about what sort of players they needed? I felt they needed a goalkeeper. I think that's important for them. No matter what you're like in any league, having a goalkeeper in your of high quality, and we've seen that with the Bohs, for example, excellent goalkeeper. Shells have signed an exceptional goalkeeper. They probably just need to stop conceding the silly goals and eke out a couple of draws over the next couple of weeks, and they'd be fine. So I think we all wish Galway well. It's obviously a difficult time at the moment for the players and the staff. Yeah. As I said, Ollie's not around at the moment, which is disappointing for them. So we just wish them well, don't we, Stevo? And I think it's a great place to go and watch football. And I think they'll be okay. And just we give them a bit of breathing space over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I love Eamon DC Park going there as an away supporter. You won't get a warmer welcome around the league, and it's always hopping as well. The atmosphere is always brilliant at Galway United. We need our provincial clubs in the top flight, so hopefully they can turn things around. And as you say, Vinny, it is disappointing. Good old Ollie Horgan isn't on the bench, but if he does happen to be listening to our podcast this week, I just want him to know that we're all thinking about him at the moment, and hopefully you'll see him soon. Listen, lads, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting to you again this weekend. And where are you off to, Gareth? Are you going to stay in the nice comforts of home up in Derry watching Cork City?
I'll still be in Ibiza. I'll probably be in somewhere.
Okay.
I'll ask them to put it on the screen, the LOI TV, and I'll tell them to stream it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure happy enough.
Stevo, I'm not allowed in Drogheda on Friday.
Yeah, what's the crack here?
I don't know why. So I'll be in Pat's Thursday, Pat's on Sunday, Shells shooting on Shells and Bohs on Saturday.
You're talking about Pat's the football club now, are you? Yeah.
Which?
You said you're going to be in Pat's. You're talking about the football club now, yeah?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm on the way to the other place already. So I need to find somewhere for Friday night where I'm welcome. So we'll see.
Who's stopping you? Is this a Gary Neville show? Have you been stopped to going to Drogheda?
No. I'm only slagging Drogheda.
Stop him going up to Roy McBride, Brandywell. Right, lads.
The Brandywell is the biggest problem for me.
He wouldn't know where he wouldn't know where it was.
No, just stop. Out to Shanty.
Lads, have a great weekend. And to everyone out there, listen, thanks a million. We'll be back with you again next week.